Welcome everyone to today's webinar. My name is Julian Pashide, and with me is Jonathan Hensley, the CEO of Emerge. Today's webinar is going to cover how product-focused B2B leaders can look at the crucial aspects of a great product vision and the pivotal role it plays in your product strategy, building alignment across businesses, making the thousands of nuanced decisions every day that determine product success. These invaluable insights come from more of 2 decades of Jonathan's experience in business design and engineering, successfully navigating the intricate landscape of delivering successful digital products. With that, I will turn it over to Jonathan to take us through how to build a successful product vision.
Thank you so much, Julian. I'm really excited to be sharing with all of you today a little bit about my 2 decades of experience around helping leaders develop effective product visions and how they can support their success in their organizations. Product leaders and managers are just tasked with an incredible amount of responsibility, from driving the product vision to defining go-to-market strategy and aligning the team to enable the performance of the organization. And this is far easier said than done. There's an incredible amount of challenges that we all face when we're tasked with these responsibilities. Understanding our customers' needs, navigating challenging market conditions, trying to make sure we're working on the right things at the right time. And sometimes it's a nearly impossible task. There just isn't enough time and resources. And one of the most effective ways to help tackle this and really bring a team together starts with a really clear and effectively defined product vision. And so what I want to do is I want to talk today a little bit about what is the pivotal role of a product vision, the anatomy of a compelling vision, and aligning vision, strategy, and execution. And so let's first talk a little bit about the pivotal role that the product vision plays. So when we think about vision, one of the most important things to understand is motivation. And motivation is really at the heart of how we come together. And Daniel Pink wrote an incredible book called Drive, The Surprising Truth About What Motivates Us. And he was able to boil it down to 3 key aspects. And the first one is purpose, all about serving something bigger than ourselves. And today, more than ever, people are looking for more purpose in their work, purpose in understanding what the organization's intentions are, how their work matters to the products and services that they're collaborating on, and they really want to understand how they make an impact in people's lives. And this is really driving the types of roles that people are looking for and how they decide that they're going to invest their time and expertise and their passion into the organization. The second one is mastery, improving our skills and really understanding how we develop the competencies around our areas of passion as we develop our capabilities and our careers. And the third is autonomy. And so people are looking for more autonomy than ever in directing their own lives and the path of their success in their careers. And why this is so important is that purpose, fundamentally, vision gives us a definition of purpose for our work. Vision enables the individual learning path that we might have in developing our skills and competencies. And vision also enables autonomy. It allows us and gives us line of sight so we can go off and work towards the things that are most important for us and in alignment with the organization that is providing us this opportunity. And so it's really key to understand the pivotal role that vision plays in enabling the purpose, mastery, and autonomy of us as individuals and at the team level, and building that trust within an organization as a company is scaling or growing. The second piece to that is when we go look at the personal side, now we can look at the company side of all of this. And companies are seeking great people that are engaged to fulfill the purpose of the organization, the mission. And when you look at purpose and engagement, you see that it can be measured in performance or productivity. And there's been some profound work done in this category of really understanding the power of engagement and how that drives our performance in organizations. So this is a great little study that was done by the Harvard Business Review in partnership with Bain and Company around engagement versus productivity. And you can see that when engagement was 71%, or they were dissatisfied with their role within their organization, their productivity was 71% in comparison to the average of satisfied being the mean of 100%, where an engaged team member was really outperforming by 44%, and inspired employees were outperforming them by 125% over the mean. So really an incredible case study in how understanding people's motivations and bringing together purpose with engagement is accelerating some of the most profound organizations and their capabilities to solve problems and deliver great products today. And so it's really important that we understand the intricate relationship that we have as individuals with the intention of the organizations that we're working for or aspire to work for. And when we seek that purpose, what that looks like. And vision is one of the most fundamental tools we can create as product managers and leaders in order to bridge that gap between understanding our purpose and our contribution and how we can leverage that in the work that we do. The next piece is building alignment. So I want to share a quick story with everybody today. There's an old fable about 6 blind men heard there was an animal called an elephant, and they were curious about the shape and form of this elephant, and curiosity got the best of them, and they were brought to a garden to meet, led by a young boy to meet this elephant. And of course, one of the blind men felt the trunk and he thought it was a snake, and the other felt the tusk and thought it was like a spear. And another man felt the leg and felt like, oh, it's mighty like a tree trunk. And another man was feeling the ear and thought it was like a fan. The next man felt the side of the elephant and felt the texture of the skin and felt it was rough and massive like a wall. And then the last man felt the tail and understanding it felt like a rope and something that they could hold on to. And what this story really tells us is that it's so intricately important to understand that when we come at from different perspectives and our own biases, we're missing the total picture and the intention. Context is the most important thing that we can have as a team in solving the right things at the right time. And we need that context. We need to challenge our individual biases and perceptions. And we need to make sure that we're really focused on the areas where we can, make a difference, but that requires us to have a core sense of truth. And so when you look at an example of this, vision plays such an intricate role in building that shared understanding, building that shared context, bringing together the picture, not from one point of view, but holistically of what we're trying to achieve. And that is an incredible mechanism for building alignment in our organizations, whether that's tapping into the individual motivations and helping everyone understand how their work contributes to what they're creating and building and supporting and how that makes a difference in customers' lives, to aligning a team and helping them bring their unique experiences and expertise together to solve problems and to build and deliver amazing things, or building alignment around at the organizational level and understanding, how to manage our resources and understand how to acknowledge our constraints and how to organize them in such a way to enable and empower our teams and the individuals to effectively achieve the goals that we've set out to achieve together. And also, fourth, a clear picture of what we're trying to achieve helps us find alignment with the market, understanding that what we're trying to achieve, where does that fit within the needs of our customers? And where is the demand for that need being felt the most, so we can have that connection, which inevitably results in us having a thriving business that can scale. And so our product vision becomes this very, very powerful tool at all four levels of understanding, that individual purpose, driving that motivation, connecting through the team to drive the performance that we see in the research that is so profound, and to building then the collective competency and alignment as an organization and with the market that we're looking for. The next piece that I want to talk about is where vision fits within the spectrum of everything that we're doing. And so, at the very, highest level, we have a company's mission or purpose as a whole, and the set of values, which are really what are the rules of the game that we've defined for ourselves. As we're going to build a company or we're part of a company, how have we decided that we're going to conduct ourselves? How have we decided, what are the principles by which we're going to operate, essentially? Just below that then becomes the vision for the actual product that we want to create. And then we have to look at strategy. Where does strategy fit in? Well, strategy is how we're going to achieve that vision. And our objectives then are the actions and the things that we're going to do in order to execute on that strategy. For those that have embraced OKRs and are familiar with that method, this is also a really important principle to understand around, defining objectives that are aligned with strategy vision through the actual mission and intention of the company. And so once again, we can see the connection that a well-defined vision has to all of the facets of an organization, and how an incredibly powerful tool it becomes when used correctly and allowing it to do the job that it needs to do. So with that, I think we've made a pretty strong case for the pivotal role of a vision. Let's talk about what makes up a vision. So there's a lot of different versions of how we define a product vision. And this is the one that I think is the strongest, that a product vision is the clear, defined, and measurable long-term goal you wish to achieve. It defines your intended destination, aka your ideal future state. Your product vision acts as your true north. So let's look at the anatomy that makes up a great product vision. So when we look at the anatomy, we're looking for a couple of three distinguishing key attributes to a great vision. One, it needs to be inspirational. Two, it needs to be specific. And three, it needs to be measurable. So oftentimes there's an emphasis on the idea of it being this aspirational thing, identifying how we want to change the world. What's unfortunate in most of those definitions, and a common mistake we see in some of even the largest organizations, that these visions are abstract. They don't actually build a common understanding in that sense of purpose. And so when we think about connecting to motivation, driving performance, making real impact, providing the context that's necessary to be successful, we really have to make sure that all three facets of the anatomy of a product vision are in place. So let's look at a couple of guidelines before we look at a few examples of that. So one is, we do want it to be a bit audacious. We do want to be thinking big. It needs to be realistic, but it needs to be truly pushing us outside of our comfort zone. It needs to be really pushing the organization to achieve at its very best. What is that optimal, ideal future state that we're trying to achieve? What is that clear destination we're working towards? It should be forward-looking, really 3 to 5 years or further out. Any sooner, it should probably be more of a goal and objective. We really do want to make sure we're focused on long-term objectives that can set the direction for the teams that we're asking to work and deliver on this product. The third is having clear focus and intention within this. And so this really gets into the specificity of the vision. What are we trying to tap into? And one of the key attributes to this specificity is making sure in an ideal situation, you're actually connecting with some of the psychological value that you're looking to create in the product vision statement itself for your end customer. Oftentimes, this connection is missed. And so if we look at being more customer centric, product visions, the best ones, are really defined by this attribute of how we change the lives of the customers we serve. And this goes then to the fifth one, which is use leading indicators, meaning if we're going to put measures as we would suggest, into your product vision statement, make sure that they're focused on the behavior and the value you want to create versus a lagging indicator like revenue. I can't tell you how many times I've sat there with leaders and their goals are something to the effect of, well, we want to increase our revenue by $25 million. And that's the goal that we have, that's our vision. And while that is, a great goal, it certainly is not a vision, and it doesn't communicate the purpose or the value to individuals or to teams to really understand what kind of value do they need to create that would generate $25 million in revenue. What purpose is there in generating that $25 million in revenue other than potentially in the service of shareholders? What we really want to do is we want to tap into the most fundamental aspects that drive value for us as human beings. We want to tap into things like belonging, meaning, solving real tangible problems, like providing us access to services that otherwise we may not have. So let's look at a couple of examples. I want to start off with something that is good, then I want to show you what it evolves to look at something that's been added to be great as a product vision. So this is LinkedIn's product vision to create economic opportunity for every member of the global workforce. It certainly is inspirational. It's specific, it has great intention, but it's missing one fundamental element, which is measurability. How do we know from this vision how we're going to measure our success? How do we know that we're moving forward towards our intention? And this becomes really important when we think about where vision sits above strategy and before we get to execution. And so it's really important that at the vision level that this is, that we bring that idea of measurement. What does that actual opportunity look like for every member of the global workforce? So in this case, I think LinkedIn has done a great job of building a good product vision, but it can be better. And we see that when we look at the enablement and the intention. And I think that, and this is a really good example of where they have even a more complicated situation in that they have a portfolio of products that would fall under this vision, and they really need to be specifically clear on how that impact and that opportunity is going to be measured for the sake of everyone involved. So here's another example. Every book ever made in any language, all available in under 60 seconds. I love this product vision from Amazon for the Kindle product. It's a perfect example of it's inspirational, it's extremely specific, and it is absolutely measurable. They can measure by how many books, they can measure by how many languages they support, and they can measure time to value for the customer in delivering that in under 60 seconds if they have a Kindle device. So it gives teams an incredible sense of that individual purpose and that drives their motivations and understanding of how they contribute. It gives us an incredible line of sight into how as a team we need to focus our time and our energy, and it also helps us make sure that we're picking the right things in our strategies and approaches that are going to be moving us forward towards this intended goal. So let's look at one other. So this is a regional company that has to be anonymous in this case, but bringing community to 100,000 people, where each personalized home is a space where families, neighbors, and friends can come together, places where memories are formed and meaning connections are made, celebrating every stage of life. This is another, I think, fantastic example of a really strong and great product vision. It's measurable, it's intentional, and it's also doing a fantastic job of really tapping into that core psychological value that I mentioned earlier. So, that facet of community, belonging, recognizing, and celebrating those stages in life, building a multifaceted community. There are so many ways to really break this down to every level of the team and every facet of what it's going to take in order to enable this vision. And they've really made sure it's, instead of just going for brevity, they've really made sure it's as long as it needs to be in order to really have the power that it needs to and be an effective tool for them as they go forward. All right, so let's talk about how vision fits into strategy a little bit. So one of the key things is understanding, just for everyone's sake that is listening today, to understand the foundations of product strategy. So vision is at the heart of product strategy. It helps us understand our destination. It is that North Star, as we talked about earlier. And then within our strategy, we have to understand the challenge. And this is deciding the problem space, where we're going to focus, where will we play as an organization. There might be 10, 15 problems. We're best suited to maybe solve one better than anybody else, or maybe we're going to look at a combination of those problems. But this is the first area where we're making a strategic choice, and that has to be grounded in where there is opportunity to serve people better. The next one is action, which is all about how will you compete? Where will you focus your activity in order to solve those challenges effectively for your customer? The third one is outcomes. And there's two dimensions to outcomes here. One is understanding what are the outcomes that you need to achieve for your customer, and also what outcomes you need to achieve as a business. And they need to be, they're synonymous with one another. You can't differentiate one over the other in many cases. And it's worthy and to really define those two things, because if you make a choice that is all of a sudden unsustainable for you as a business, it's not an effective strategy in moving you towards your vision. And often these things are decoupled, or one side or the other is missing. They're either business centric or they're customer centric. You need to really make sure strategically you're evaluating both and that they're viable and feasible for what you're trying to achieve. And then the fifth piece is measure. What will you measure? How will you measure that forward progress of that you're actually moving your strategy effectively forward towards realizing the vision? So the vision has a measurable component that we want to track as the top level. And then we need to also understand how we're going to measure progress, because many of these things are going to take potentially months, quarter after quarter, even years to accomplish. And we have to systematically know how we're going to be working towards that 3 to 5 year intended vision. So one of the key things when we think about the strategy is that vision at its heart allows us to start to become this anchor for how we organize and create tremendous potential within our organization. So let's break down some of the direct result outputs that come from that. So the first one is when we have a really clear product vision, we're establishing that context that we talked about from the beginning, that shared purpose. That shared purpose is helping us align the individual, again, the team, the organization, and the strategy and actions that we're taking within the organization and how we move them through our processes in order to move forward towards that intended goal. The next one is it gives us clear focus. We stop not only we stop paying attention to the noise, essentially. We get away from the things that are inevitably going to get in our way, unintentional hurdles or distractions from achieving the goal. We have only so many opportunities and resources, and those do come with constraints. And by having an incredibly clear and strong product vision that's anchored to a really strong strategy, we bring that focus to maximize those resources as we go forward. The next thing is it unleashes our potential. When we think about tapping into the individuals' motivations that make up our teams and make up our organizations, it's so critical that we're bringing this, with this focus, their best selves to solving the problem. So we saw that from a productivity perspective, but there's an equal body of research that shows that just the creativity that is unlocked when you actually provide an environment with clarity, with focus, and where you're in safety is an incredibly powerful set of attributes to really unlock the full potential of your team. Google did an incredible study called Project Aristotle about what are the attributes that drive the highest performing teams. And a huge aspect of unleashing that potential was understanding clarity and meaning of purpose. And that really is why, again, the product vision plays such a critical role at every facet of your organization. The next thing is, with that clarity also comes the ability to have more of an agile workflow, more iterative abilities to test, to experiment, to work towards your intended goal. So you're not trying to reinvent your work or being able to, or trying to stick with a process that may not work. You're keeping that opportunity space and how you work as open as possible. And this is really more critical than ever when you think about some organizations are still having people come to the office, some are remote only. You have a lot of organizations that are creating hybrid scenarios. And the agility that we can bring to the way that we work and making sure that we are supporting that clarity of purpose and that autonomy at all levels is really the foundational pieces of being able to enable agile workflow. And so it's really key, again, understanding that our vision is really an enabler of this capability. The next one is establishing structure. So when we have a very clear intention of our vision and we know how we're going to measure that impact in the world, and that's set with a strong strategy, we can start to then develop a very clear structure of roles that are necessary, responsibilities, structures of accountability, structures and formats for communication, and making sure that we're reinforcing the key elements that are necessary to enable everyone's success. And otherwise, we're making this up. We don't have something to anchor that work to, other than maybe a competitor or previous examples of how we've thought that needs to work. This gives us an actual framework to successfully evaluate what is going to be necessary to actually achieve this intended thing that we're trying to achieve. And last but not least, it enables us to make better decisions. It helps us make better decisions by looking at them and saying, for example, if we do X, will it move us towards our vision? Will it help solve the problem that we're trying to solve? Will it help drive the near-term outcome we're trying to achieve for the user and the business? Is it measurable? We can start to really think through these things and making sure that we're really creating a structure that holds us true to our intention, both with short-term action and long-term intention with the vision of the organization. And so, again, product vision becomes this anchor point that enables all of these very, very hyper-tactical things that allows us to move quickly, very efficiently, and nimbly as we go through, and is one of the underpinnings of the most successful and high-performing teams all over the world. So this will be a quick takeaway for anybody, but I just wanted to highlight this. This is more of just saying when we have a well-defined and communicated product vision, it allows us to answer yes to these 5 key things, which are very powerful. Yes, we have a clear, articulate, overarching long-term goal we want to achieve. Yes, the product division aligns with our company's purpose, core values, and direction. Yes, the near-term customer experience and business objectives moves us towards our product vision. Yes, everyone in our organization has the same understanding of what the product vision means and understand why it matters to the success of the customer and the company. And yes, everyone in the organization has an understanding of how their role contributes to achieving the product vision. So with that, I'd like to open it up to Q&A and answer any questions that people may have. Thank you.
Thank you, John, for that overview of product vision. Extremely insightful and well articulated. So let's do some Q&A. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them into the Q&A box in Zoom. I do see we have one question here from Marty. He asks, in your experience, how often should a product vision be revisited or revised? And what are the indicators that it may be time to reevaluate the current vision?
Yeah, that's a great question, Marty. So often what I will see is that you should be using your product vision is one of those things that unfortunately it can be set and then it's kind of forgotten over time. And that happens in a lot of organizations. So first off, I would recommend that your product vision should be an anchor point to every critical discussion and every major review within your product lifecycle. And so you have this continuous reinforcement and reflection of the product vision through the process to guide and maintain alignment with everybody involved. That being said, sometimes there are major shifts in market dynamics and you should reevaluate that. So very recently, I was working with a couple of chief product officers on this very issue because their product offering is potentially going to be disrupted by AI. And so those are external factors that are outside of their control. And so, they now need to really step back and think about, well, how will our product continue to create value? Is that, relevant and is it sustainable in the marketplace with AI, coming into the market so strongly and so quickly? And so there are going to be critical times where either there's a massive constraint or change in external factors, or there's an internal, challenge that has to be, evaluated first of whether or not that vision is really realistic anymore. And so there's going to be just inflection moments in your organization and in the market where you're going to have to step back and say, is this still true? The intent here is that vision is so intricately tied to the organization that your strategy should probably be the piece that is evolving the most versus the actual vision statement itself. Just for context though, how we get to the vision, we want to be nimble, we want to be adaptive as much as possible. The vision should have some concreteness to it in all essence, so it provides a sense of stability in the organization. When that is moving too often, it can cause, instead of clarity, a lot of chaos and conflict.
Great, thank you for that answer. Emma asks, who should be involved in the product vision process?
That's another great question. So I would say, one, there should be 3 main groups of people. One is the folks that you're asking to fulfill the vision, the stakeholders who have a decision, power within achieving that vision. And the third group would be as those that actually have to live with the outcomes of that vision and moving it forward. And so that's a bit of a top level answer, but it really is helpful to understand, who needs to be involved. A good example of this is if you're really trying to make a significant impact on, potential customer, maybe your finance team traditionally hasn't played a role in that, but they do going forward because their connection with the customer is a critical moment in creating interdependency. And so they should have a voice in that process of defining that vision and making sure that as they go forward, that they're in alignment with that intention so that you have the collaboration and support necessary to move everything forward.
Thank you for that. Sarah has a somewhat related question. She asks, what strategies have you found to be the most effective when communicating a product vision to those different stakeholders like engineers, designers, or sales teams?
Well, everybody has their own individual motivators. And I think this is one of the key things is why it's so important that when we can tapping into the customer side of what drives an individual. So, when we think about creating, impact in people's lives, we really are creating an environment where everyone could connect with it in their own way. But what we have to really focus on in the communication is, do we have a shared understanding of that thing? So, for example, when we talk about community, well, what does community mean? What does belonging to a community look like? Many times when I've seen really great communication is you start creating scenarios, right? Okay, well, let's talk about community. Let's talk about, for example, what are the moments in people's lives where community really matters? And you personalize it. In my case, I have kids, so those stories can really resonate. For others, they may not have that circumstance, but maybe they have an understanding of community from caring for an elderly parent or a sibling or a close friend who's going through, hard times. We have to look at where that value is and how it connects to us at a human level. And we have to distribute that out, and we have to make sure we're aware of our audience. But at the end of the day, everything still ladders up to that same value creating point. And so we're not diffusing it, we're reinforcing it, we're really building it up. And it allows us to create a feedback loop also, and that will help us gather more insight and strengthen the alignment at every level.
Great, thank you. That's it for the questions. So thank you everybody for submitting interesting questions. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you, John, for the walkthrough. Very insightful. We will be posting the recording of this webinar online. Maybe you're already watching the recording. In that case, you're in a feedback loop. Either way, I hope everybody has a great rest of the week, and I hope you took something away from today. Thank you so much.